What's up everybody? It's Josh here from Learn Mobility, and today we're going to share with you a strategic warm-up that's going to help you get more out of your running. So a good warm-up should prime your body for the upcoming session. In the case of running, we want to make sure that we're getting extra connected to the lower body joints as well as the spine and the shoulders. Without further ado, let's get it going. Okay, so for the first part of our warm-up, we're going to be using a mini band. I have a heavy resistance mini band here. I want you to take that, put it across your knees on top. Bend the knees and stick the hips back. So we're in this base position right here. Feel like we can move anywhere. From there, the right hip is going to go into internal rotation and then back out. So all we have is that we're working one side of the body, the ball and socket joint, which we need for running. And the key part here is making sure that we feel the work in the back of the hip. You may feel a little bit around the knee as well, a little bit around the front of the hip, but you want to make sure that the back of the hip is the tissue that's actually doing the load. Once we've done 10 on the right, we go 10 on the left. Same thing, the side that is not moving is also resisting the band, so it's working as well. Once we've done 10 both sides, then we do 10 together. Actually looks like a nice dance, like you're presenting yourself to everybody here at the field. So after that, we're gonna take that mini band and move it around our ankles. Then we'll go back to that same base position. So I'm in my hips, back, my knees are forward, and then essentially we're gonna walk into a square, 10 meters each direction, forward, lateral, and back, and then lateral. As I do that, I wanna think about pushing out against the band. Arms and legs are working together just like when we were run. And the slower you go, the more you're gonna build up that intensity in the hip, making sure that the ball and socket joint is primed for running. Key point when I'm going to the side, I want to make sure that my feet don't get narrow. So they're always as wide as they can be, at least at my shoulders, and then as I step, they'll get a little bit wider. As I come back, they'll get back to my shoulders. Start to feel that pressure build up into the hip. Once we've done lateral one way, then we go backwards. And the big thing here is just looking like you have control of the motion, right? You don't want to have sloppiness in the shoulders and the hips. It almost looks robotic, and then I'm walking on train tracks. Then we just finished going 10 meters lateral the other way. If I had like a glass of water in my head, you'd see some waves in the glass of water, but I'm not knocking the glass over. Whew, I wanna make sure you guys are feeling what I'm feeling. So if you feel like your hips are primed after doing this little mini band circuit, let me know down below. Let's get on to the next one. All right, so let's get our spine prepared. We've done a lot of work on the hips, trying to get different tissues involved that we can feel during running. And now it's important that we get the spine to segment and rotate, because that's also important when we're gonna run. I want you to think about keeping your hips still and your lower body's buried in sand from the waist below, so there's no motion. Cross your arms. From there, I want you to segment your spine down through flexion. Once you find the bottom of flexion, start to rotate to the right, vertebrae by vertebrae, full rotation, lean back into extension. Once you go through extension, start to lean towards the left into lateral flexion, and then rotate your spine back towards the left, boomerang yourself back into the center, and then stack back up to your starting position. During this time, be aware of your breath. Try to make sure that you are using as much of your tissue around the spine and your abdominal column as you can. Okay, so the next thing we're gonna work on is the shoulder car. And it's really important because you have to exercise plenty of shoulder mobility when you're running, ideally, because if you don't, you're gonna make it up in your spine. That's where people get different random tightnesses when they're running. So we'll actually just prime the shoulder just by going through controlled articular rotations of the actual shoulder joint. The first thing you're gonna do is irradiate tension in your body, meaning that you're nice and tight and rigid so that nothing else will move except for the shoulder. Rotate out, full external rotation, trace a circle. So you're gonna cross the midline of your body, bringing that shoulder up through flexion, bicep as close to the ear as you can, avoiding any pinch points or pain. Once we're here, we rotate internally in the shoulder, turning the bicep down, and then hide the hand behind the back. Adduction as high as you can with a straight elbow, straight wrist, and then you're gonna trace that circle, park your hand right by your side. Now reverse, reach back up as high as you can, find full extension. Once you're at that full extension range, start to rotate externally through the shoulder, turning that bicep out, and then think of a zip line of your bicep going towards your ear. Retrace the steps that you did on the beginning, crossing the midline, and we're back to the start. Being able to exercise your active ranges of motion are gonna help you put more range of motion into your movements. So the more I can feel my shoulder extend and flex and rotate while I run, the better I can disperse load, the more I can feel the actual exercise. And that's our goal for this warm-up. Whew, shoulders are prime. Let's get some dynamic movement in the legs. Follow me. So to practice some more dynamic movement, we're actually gonna be employing leg swings. And To be honest, I used to shit on them. I'm like, man, those things look pretty useless. But I started using them more and more, and they feel good. They have their own place. They're not building range of motion, but they are allowing you to get some of a distraction force in the joint. So I'll start off with lateral leg swings. The first half of these sets should be done with a stiff spine, right? So you can practice separating your hip from your spine. And then the second half should be done letting your spine go. And I'll show you both examples. So my right leg will cross into the center and back out. While I do that, I'm just using the momentum of my leg. I'm trying to keep my spine as still as I can because I just want to feel where my hip is. After several reps, then I start to let my spine go. I start to let that pelvis open up just so I can get more range of motion. And again, this is just practicing dynamic motion, getting some quicker movements in there and allowing us to just use momentum to explore a little bit more space in our hip. Then I like to do the ones with flexion. We're gonna go forward and back. But when we go forward and back, let's make sure that we're not using our spine. Again, just for the first couple reps so we can feel where the hip is. We get full hip extension and full hip flexion. After several reps, I really let it start to go and I actually get spinal extension as well as spinal flexion. I think these also serve a purpose of just getting that nervous system used to moving in more extreme ranges of motion at a faster pace, faster tempo. Okay, feeling pretty primed now. Let's put everything together with some skips. So with skips, our objective is to get both sides of the body more connected, talking to each other, better communication, and start to also work on more explosive and quicker motions that are gonna be very similar to how we do when we run. We'll start off with some marching in place. So right leg will be up, left arm, then reverse. Think about keeping the body still. Shoulders and hips are communicating towards each other. Then we start with a skip, so it's a double contact. Get those arms and legs. Once we get the hang of it, then we start to skip forward, about 10 meters. Once we've gone about 10 meters, then we go backwards. Nice and smooth, gets the heart rate up a little bit, gets the body more elastic. So that warm-up was just about using the current mobility you have, but if you want to learn how to build real mobility, especially in the hip, then you're going to want to check this next video.